Mold in your Wesley Chapel home isn't just about health. It's about the law and your money. But a Florida law says the company that finds your mold is restricted from fixing it if the visible mold is more than 10 square feet. Do you know why? This isn't a guideline. It's state regulation. Florida requires 2 separate licenses, mold assessors and mold remediators. Knowing this one rule, and a few others, is the difference between a fair price and a possible financial issue. We'll break down the laws for buyers, sellers, and tenants in Wesley Chapel so you can act with confidence. So when do these strict licensing laws apply? The key number in Florida is 10 square feet. Anything larger requires a licensed pro. You also must know an inspection from testing. An inspection is visual. Testing sends samples to a lab for analysis. But neither matters without this first step. You must fix the source of the moisture. Otherwise, the mold will always return. And Florida's DBPR takes this seriously. Performing mold work over 10 square feet without a mold license is a violation of state law, unless you are a licensed building contractor. Let's go back to that conflict of interest rule. It exists to prevent fraud. Imagine a company could do both jobs. They'd have incentive to exaggerate the problem. Separating roles creates checks and balances. The assessor gives an unbiased map. The remediator follows it. The law separates the companies, but how does it ensure they're qualified? Through mandatory liability insurance. To maintain a license, assessors and remediators must carry at least $1 million in liability insurance. This protects you from their negligence. An unlicensed handyman who spreads spores leaves you with no recourse. The licensing law provides a financial safety net. The protection continues after the cleanup. A licensed assessor can perform final clearance testing. This test verifies mold is back to normal levels. It's the final independent proof that the job was done right, reinforcing that checks and balances system. We get the process. So how do these laws affect you when buying or selling a home here in Wesley Chapel? For sellers, the biggest rule is Johnson versus Davis. It forces you to disclose known defects that affect value. A covered-up mold problem is the textbook example. Fail to disclose? The consequences might be catastrophic. A buyer can sue for fraud, force you to buy the house back, and pay damages. And it's not just the seller. Real estate agents also have a duty to disclose known mold. So, with all these rules, what should an inspection cost? The law also protects renters. Florida statute requires landlords to maintain a safe, habitable unit, and significant mold can violate that. If a landlord ignores a serious mold issue after written notice, tenants may have the right to withhold rent or even break the lease. Now for the mistakes. First, the DIY mold kit. They're unreliable, and their results are worthless in court or for insurance claims. Next trap, the free mold inspection. This is a huge red flag. It's often a sales tactic to quote you an inflated cleanup price. Finally, don't assume your insurance covers you. Most Florida policies have strict mold limits unless it's from a sudden, covered water loss. DIY kits, free inspections, insurance gaps. These are the traps that cost thousands. So how do you avoid them and find out the real price? Let's answer our earlier question. A professional mold inspection in our area costs $350 to $1,000, depending on size and samples. This is the price for unbiased truth. Now connect the dots. Remember the free inspection red flag? Paying an assessor $400 is your insurance against a remediation company inventing a $5,000 problem. For buyers, this is vital. Even if a seller gives you a clean report, hire your own mold inspector to verify it and protect your massive investment. That clearance test we mentioned is the final proof that the job you paid for was actually done right. See the pattern? At every step, inspection, remediation, and clearance, Florida law inserts an independent expert to protect you. Your job is to use that system. Let's review. 1. Assessor and remediator must be separate companies unless visible mold is less than 10 square feet. 2. Sellers and agents must disclose knowledge of past mold issues. 3. Tenants have legal rights, but must follow proper procedures. Reject DIY kits and free inspections. Proper documentation from a certified lab is the best course of action. These laws aren't just regulations. They are a toolkit designed to protect your health, property, and wallet. Knowing them makes you an informed consumer, not a victim. Buying, selling, or renting, your first step is identical. Hire a licensed, insured mold inspector.